Very good. Base hello base in Hilchos Melochim. The Chacham said, there's no difference between these times, the Moetzes Mashiach, for the times of Mashiach, Shibud Malchus Bilvad, except for the yoke of other kingdoms. So the case of Mishnah cites Sanhedrin 91b. This is what Shmuel says. There's no difference between today and the times of Mashiach, except for the yoke of other kingdoms. And it's cited there, also in Brachos 34b, that all the prophets did not prophesy only for the days of Mashiach. But Olam Haba, no one can comprehend it, no one has seen it, except for Hashem. And not like Shmuel. The Rambam codifies the Halacha like Shmuel, and the Radvaz does as well, as we learned in the previous Halacha. Guess the Mishnah questions, and Hilchos Yesodei the Rambam codifies the Halacha like Rabbi Yochanan, that all the prophets did prophesy regarding the days of Mashiach. But Olam Haba, no one would be able to ever saw it, except for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbi Yochanan disagrees. Here, how does he say that Halacha agrees with Shmuel? Furthermore, he questions that even in Hilchos Yesodei, when he says that he codifies like Shmuel, because he says that at the end, the reward it will be the goodness, the last goodness that has no end to it, and nothing lacking. That's the life of the world to come. The days of Mashiach is a world like today. The world continues on. Just that the kingdom or kingship will return to Yisrael. And Chacham tell us that there's nothing between today and the world, the days of Mashiach, only the fact that we will not be under the servitude of other nations. And he remains, like as a Mishnah, with a question as to how the Rambam seems to contradict himself. So the Mishnah adds to question from a Mishnah in Shabbos 63a that it says that people will not go out with sword. You can't go out on Shabbos with a sword or a bow. This means to carry, to move it from even if you're from a public domain to a private domain, or reverse. When he's wearing even if he's wearing it as his soldier's item. Loza says no, it's like a jewel for a woman. That's what arms are to a man. The Chacham is saying it's despicable because it says in the future, Yeshayahu says they will hack their swords into plowshares. And the Gemara questions, according to Eliezer, why will it be nullified in the days of the world to come? And the answer is that Eliezer disagrees on Shmuel. He's of the opinion that the prophecies were only for the days of Mashiach. And when he's asked why will they do so according to you, if it's a man's jewelry, because the time of Mashiach will cease. There are those who say that Eliezer is the opinion like Shmuel. Chacham said that it's going to be nullified in the future, not like Shmuel. According to Chacham, therefore armaments of a person are not considered as jewelry, and therefore you can't go out from a public domain to a private domain. Because what we do need to do so today is basically degrading, because we are not living an optimal life in an optimal time. The Rambam in Hilchos Shabbos codifies like a Rachamim. It's forbidden to go out on Shabbos with a sword or a bow, and not like Shmuel. The Mishnah explains that the Rambam is the opinion, what it says, that all the prophets only prophesied regarding the days of Mashiach. The intent is to all the things that will become new, which will be the opposite of the nature of the world, like the destruction of swords and spears. That it's not against the nature, but it's against the custom of the world at the moment. And all the prophecies that are similar are for the times of Mashiach. But Shmuel's the opinion there will be nothing different than the way way of the world, and even poor and rich will remain. And he learns it from the pasuk, it says that there will always be poor people, that will never cease the downtrodden from the midst of the earth. We've seen that in the time of Mashiach there will be poor and poverty. And even though today there are rich people, and what will happen if everyone will be rich, but according to Shmuel in the days of Mashiach, there's nothing new, only the fact that we will not have the yoke of foreign kingdom. The Lechem Mishnah adds that Rambam learns that a wolf will dwell together with a sheep is a simile, and you have to say so. Otherwise, according to Shmuel, that it says there's no difference, then obviously, what does it mean? And it says there shall come out a scion of the house of Yishai. We're talking about Mashiach. Even if the Rambam learns that other prophecies which prophesies that there will be changes in the nature of the world, will be after the time of Mashiach. Nevuos of Yeshayahu will definitely come in the time of Mashiach, and therefore it must be a simile. Therefore, the Lechem Mishnah is the opinion that the Chacham Shmuel disagree only if new things will come into the world, new nature, a new type of nature. But the opposite of the world, there will not be. And that's what it means when he says in Tshuva, in Perek Tes, Hilchos Tshuva. Just that in Hilchos Melochim he clarifies it in greater detail. The Rambam cites the words of Shmuel only as a proof, but not that he is of that opinion. Thus, even the Chacham agreed to Shmuel that the world will continue. The question is whether it will choose to go according to the better makeup of the world. The Meiser Akiach questions on the Lechem Mishnah. Bayas writes like Shmuel, and maybe he says the Halacha is like Shmuel. He answers that they disagree whether the prophecies are literally translated or it's just a simile. Even the Shmuel talking about the world, the days of Mashiach, it's only a simile. From the end of the Perek, where he says that in the days of Mashiach there will be no hunger, and all goodness will be found like dirt, meaning there will be no poverty. Not like Shmuel says there's no difference at all except for the yoke of foreign kingdom. He learns this from the passage that it says that there will always be poverty. Thus, in the days of Mashiach, there will be poor people, and he concludes that one could answer with difficulty, but he doesn't say how one could answer that question. And he questions further, like the Lechem Mishnah from Shabbos. There it seems Ram codifies the Halacha like the Chachamim. He answers he doesn't mean to say like the Chachamim. It's only according to Rabbi Yochanan, but rather like the first text that we have there in Shabbos, that you can't learn that Eliezer admits that vessels of war will not be around in the future, and he's still of the opinion they are at the moment they are considered jewelry regarding Shabbos. Thus, the disagreement between is even according to Shmuel that it will not be nullified, and you can't learn from this regarding Shabbos, because Shabbos depends upon where you are now. Right now you need to have weapons. And even though he says he codifies the Halacha like the later text, the Halacha we are more stringent, because the Tanakhama is of the opinion like the Chachamim, even though by the days of Mashiach he's like Shmuel that there will be no change. Thus, the Rambam was stringent the Halacha. Maybe the Halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan, who says that all the prophecies are for the days of Mashiach. Therefore, you can't go out on Shabbos with weapons, because in the future they will not be jewelry. But what will happen in the days of Mashiach, he says the Halacha is like Shmuel. The Chidah questions the contradiction of the Rambam, and he answers similar to the Meiser Akiach. And the Gemara that Abchia Ba'abba disagrees with Shmuel is because they knew Abchia explains the prophecies simply as written. The Shmuel's also the agreement that they were said for the days of Mashiach, but he says that they're only a simile, not an actuality. And he brings from Shabbos that the other Mishnah questioned, and the Vidyaw says it would seem that Shmuel's the opinion that they're only said for the future time. There's a separate time after Mashiach, which is called Olam Habo. And then the question comes up: how could the Rambam here say the words of Shmuel Halacha and feel that the prophecies are only a mashal when they are stated about the days when of Mashiach coming? And he brings the Arash al Gazi. According to the Rambam, the Gemara had a difficulty. There are those that are of the opinion like Rabbi Eliezer, and according to Shmuel, that Halacha is not like Shmuel, and not like the Chachamim, who disagree on Shmuel. And therefore, the Rambam says that the Chachamim could be of the opinion that they take both opinions. There's no difference between today to the days of Mashiach, except for the yoke of foreign government. And secondly, that all the Nevi'im were only discussing the Mashiach because it's all a mashal. And so therefore, by Shabbos, he gives the halacha like the Rachamim, because the Rachamim are also of the opinion like Shmuel. So Vidyaw questions that his words are a third alternative. It does not disagree on Shmuel, but his intent is that all of the prophets were not prophesying only for the days of Mashiach, but rather they prophesied with parables. And even Shmuel, that says that there's no difference between today and when Mashiach comes, except for the yoke of foreign governments, is the opinion that prophecies are a parable, and there's no disagreement. This is not like the Gemara that he disagrees on Shmuel. Chido concludes, it would seem that according to the Rambam, even is of the opinion there's no difference between today to the days of Mashiach, only the yoke of foreign governments. But he's of the opinion that goodness will be found in the world, and that's where he disagrees with Shmuel. And the Rambam codifies the halacha like Rabbi Yochanan, as the Lechem Mishnah explained. What the question from Sochim is on Hedron and Abchiz, the question, and the Posik, one Posik says that the light of the moon will be like the light of the sun, Yeshayahu, and one Posik says that the moon will be embarrassed. And he explains that one is refers to the time of the Olam Habo, the other one is the times of Mashiach. The more questions that Shmuel says there's no difference between in the days of Mashiach only the yoke of foreign governments. He answers that the two psukim are talking about the world to come, whether you're dwelling within the encampment of the Shekhinah, and here it's in the dwelling among the tzaddikim. Therefore, it seems that even according to Abchia Bar Abba, there's no contradiction, because the world will in Olam Habo change. So the Chidah answers that since Abchia Bar Abba's words are closed, we can say that they're only a simile, and you can also explain that they are literal. But the words of Shmuel, there's no question that he means that difference is only the subjugation of foreign government, of foreign kingdoms. Therefore, the Gemara questions to him, according to what the Rambam learned, and the words of Abchia Bar Abba Rabbi Yochanan, it's also difficult, and we can answer according to his opinion what they answered according to Shmuel. Now, where is that Kodesh? Cites the Rae Gann, which is part of the Zoya, that in the Zohar Kodesh, who answers that from as far as in Ramses, there's no difference between this world and the world to come, except for the yoke of kingdom. But those who are Tamina Achomim, that Rabbi said that, or said to Rabbi Yochanan that all the prophets only spoke about the days of Mashiach, and the days of Mashiach, not everyone will have the benefit of the goodness in an equal fashion. By the ignoramuses, there'll be that of Shmuel, the world will continue the way it is, and the tzaddikim, who are worthy to more, will be merit what Rabbi Abba said in the name of Yochanan, that all of the prophets prophesied to the days of Mashiach. The Melochim, which some say is from the Goyim of Vilna, from the writings of his Talmud, answers the contradiction, the Rambam, that both of them are the words of the living Hashem, because there are two concepts of Yemei Mashiach. There's Yemei Mashiach of Ben Yosef, and that's the question, as we learned, and we will learn, that will take place if we're merited before Mashiach ben David, like in Sanhedrin 98a. Zochu Achishano, if we're merited, it will come earlier, and HaKadosh Baruch will cause there to be a Mashiach ben Yosef first. And if we had merited, he would have, Mashiach ben Yosef would have come at the beginning of the fifth, after 4,000 years, because the world divided up into three parts, as we learned in Avodah Zorah 9a, 2,000 years of Torah, 2,000 years of Torah, and 2,000 years of Mashiach. So the last 2,000 years begin at the beginning of the year 4001, and the sixth, both of them could have Mashiach come, and the Mashiach ben Yosef would come. Then the words of Shmuel would be established, and that there would be only a difference regarding the yoke of foreign nations. So when Mashiach ben David will come, then it will cease to be death in the world. Everything will be rectified as the prophet stated witness, and this time is called Osulovai. These words are clarified more in the words of the Gra, in his explanations in Safra Tzniuso, that it'll be Moshe Mashiach. If we'll be married, we'll have Mashiach ben Yosef come before Mashiach ben David. If we would have merited, this would have begun at the beginning of the 5,000th year, which is 4001, which is, he says, the level of Hoid. That if you take the first four attributes of Hashem, you have charity, Yavram, Gvura, Yitzchok, and then you have Teferes Yaakov, and Netzach was Moshe. So then after 4,000 years, you would have Hoid, which is glory. That's when the kingdom begins. As the Gemara says, 2,000 years. Then we would have had, there's no difference between that time and the time of Mashiach ben Yosef, except for the yoke of foreign governments. But when Mashiach ben David will come, then there'll be a change in the nature of the world. That's called L'Osa Lovoi in the future. It would seem from the simple understanding of the Rambam continues, Yiro would seem Pshuton Shaldivei Neviim, from the simplicity of the words of the Neviim, Shebetchilas Yemos HaMashiach Tiyam Milchemes Gog uMagog. At the very beginning of the war of the days of Mashiach, there will be the war between Gog and Magog, and and before Gog and Magog begins, there will be a prophet who will cause the Jews to straighten their paths, and to prepare their hearts. Shenemar says, behold, I will send you as Eliyahu Hanavi, and it doesn't come, he's not coming to, as the Gemara says, to anybody not to say what is tome, if it's or not, not to say people who are apostle like Mamzerim, that's not what he's coming for, because he will not cause them not to come, and not to say that those who are forbidden should be able to come in. Elo to place peace in the world. Shenema, and it says, he shall return the hearts of fathers to their sons, and vice versa. Because the Mishnah cites after idiots, where it says in Perek Ches Mishnah Zion that the Tanoim disagree if Eliyahu comes to purify the world, or to send away, to bring close those who are not permitted, etc., or vice versa. The Rambam codifies the Halacha like Chachamim that he only comes to do peace. The Rambam continues, there are those of the wise men who say, Melochim Mashiach Yovei Eliyahu Shebi Koidim Bias Melochim Mashiach Yovei Eliyahu. Before the coming of Mashiach, Eliyahu will come, and not like the first mention that said that before Muhammad's going to Mogog, there will come a Novi, and that will be Eliyahu Novi. But rather, Eliyahu will come after Mashiach comes, before the war of Gog and Magog, and that's called the days of Mashiach. Eliyahu Novi will come to straighten out Klal Yisrael and prepare their hearts before the war of Gog and Magog. There are those Chacham who say that even before Melech Mashiach comes, Eliyahu will come, and we find an Erev in 43b that there will be one day before Mashiach that Eliyahu will come. All of these items, no person knows how it will be until it shall be. Because these are closed prophecies even to the prophets. Even the sages do not have an accepted tradition regarding these items, but rather according to the way the psukim are mentioned. Therefore, there is disagreement how the passages of the prophecies will be actualized. In any case, he says, therefore, we have no order to how this will come about, and nor is there the specifics, points of religion. And the person should not get too involved with divrei hakodesh. And the person should not be extensively involved in these things, or that they are like. They should not make them a major point. Because dealing with this does not bring not to fear God nor to love God. And he shouldn't try to figure out when Mashiach will come. Chacham says, may it be taken from them the spirit of those who try to reckon when the end will come. The case of Mishnah cites Sanhedrin 97b that this curse is found there, but you should rather wait. You should believe Bechlal in general. Hadover, the fact, as we explained it. Here he emphasizes it's not enough that he should believe it, but he has to await it. As in Perek Yud Aleph Halacha Aleph, anyone who doesn't believe or doesn't await Mashiach is denying Torah Moshe Rabbeinu. The Ritva says that since these things have no halachic ramifications, or to be able to keep any of the precepts, therefore you shouldn't be too involved with it, but rather keep to what Habakkuk says in chapter 2, verse 3, and if he shall dally, I shall await him, because he shall come, he shall not be late, and he will tell us hidden things. Rambam's words that from it would seem that from the simple language of the Nevi'im, at the beginning of Mashiach, there will be the war of Magog and Magog, is found in the view in the prophecy of Yecheskel. Ben Adam sim panecha al goig eretz hamogoig. A person, son of man, place your face towards Goig, land of Mogog, the head of Meshach for Tubal, and prophesies regarding them. There it says there'll be a war, and in Zechariah it's also mentioned this war. And the Malbim explains that this is the war of Goig or Mogog. It says that they will gather together the kings of the land against Hashem and His anointed one. Now, by the Zohar we find this is referring to Gog and Magog. Therefore, the Melchama against Hashem and His anointed one, it's talking after the Mashiach will come. In Sanhedrin 97b, it's clarified after 4,291 years to the creation of the world will be orphaned. There'll be wars among the great Taninim. There'll be wars among Gog and Magog. And the rest is Yemot Mashiach. And Rashi explains that the servitude will cease, Mashiach will come. That means that first there'll be the war of Gog and Magog, and only after that will servitude cease and Mashiach will come, like the Rambam. And so the Rambam writes in his letter to Teiman that the Posuk, it's a time of trouble for Yaakov, and from it he shall be saved. It's talking about the time of the war of Gog and Magog, and that should occur after Mashiach is revealed. The Gra explains what it says: 2,000 years is Mashiach. That's if we're merited, and he comes before the time. Then there's no difference except for the yoke of foreign kingdom. But Esav will not fall into the hands of Mashiach. Only in the 6,000th year, at the proper time that Mashiach will come, then Esav, Gog and Magog, will come to fight against Hashem and His anointed one. And he infers from when it says, Al Hashem al Mashiach, that Gog and Magog come to fight also on Melech HaMashiach, and they will fall, all of them, in the hands of Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben David comes, then will occur the fact that death will cease, and all the words of the Nevi'im, and those days are called Ol Osed Lovai. And he explains what we find in Brochus 12b and 13a. Amar ben Zayma. Zayma said to the Chachamim, do we mention Yetzias Mitzrayim during the days of Mashiach? So he said, not that we will forget it in its entirety, but the yoke of servitude is the main thing, leaving that yoke, and leaving Mitzrayim is secondary to it. And so it says in Yeshayahu, remember the beginnings, and that what happened in the past do not look into. The beginnings, that's the yoke of the kingdom. In Kadmonios, it refers to the exodus from Egypt. Here I'm making something new, now it shall sprout forth. So Yosef said this is the war of Gog and Magog. What's it similar to? So somebody goes on the way and he meets a wolf and he's saved from it. So you would tell about that, relate that he was saved from the wolf. Then he meets a lion, he's saved from it. He only talks about the lion. Then he finds a snake, and he's saved from it. He forgets both of these previous stories, and he talks about the snake. So to Yisrael, the last troubles will cause them to forget the earlier troubles. The Gra cites that many of those who cry out about this Agadah in the Chazal, it says not that Yetzias Mitzrayim will be uprooted, and then it says the latter troubles cause a person to forget the previous ones. They will forget. It seems they will forget. Furthermore, when he saved from the lion, they didn't say he forgot about the wolf. And then it says, it does say they forgot both. So how do we clarify that Agadah in the Gemara in the Talmud. Therefore, he explains that the Gemara means that the Pasuk is talking about when Mashiach ben David will come after the war of Gog and Magog. And you will not remember the earlier and the later ones. Do not look into that is Yetzias Mitzrayim. That it's a question. Why will we forget the Exodus, and we won't forget right away when Mashiach ben Yosef comes after we no longer have the yoke of exile? It must be at the time that there's no yoke of exile, we will not forget the fact that we left Egypt. And therefore, he emphasized when Mashiach ben David will come, then we may forget it completely. And we understand now the Moshel in the concept of the wolf, and then it's on the exile of Mitzrayim, and the Ari is on the freedom for the yoke of the nations. And therefore, he would tell the story about the second part, but he didn't forget the wolf. However, at the very end, everything will be forgotten regarding in the concept of what the times will be so great, the saving of the world, that they will forget about the previous two. Rambam cites in the Geras Tema, Mashiach will come, prophecy will return to Yisrael before Mashiach. He cites Yoel Hanavi, says after that I shall spill my spirit on every person. They will say with prophecy of their sons and daughters. In Peirush HaMeir, he cites this pasuk in Sefer Mitzvahs. He says that the Nevuah and the prophecy and the kingdom shall come back to the Jewish people. The Tumim infers from the words of the Rambam before the wars of Gog and Magog, there will be a Navi to straighten them out. And from his words in Hilchos Tshuva, that he writes that Yisrael are not redeemed only with Tshuva, and the Torah already promised at the end the Jewish people do Tshuva, they will be redeemed. He cites other psukim that they will return before the redemption, the prophecy. It was simple, accepted by the Rambam, that it will become a prophet right before Mashiach. The question is only, are we talking about Eliyahu Hanavi at that point or not? In Eruvin 43b, it says Eliyahu Hanavi will come one day before Mashiach, and somebody who says a vow that the day that Ben David comes, he will not drink wine. He can drink wine on Shabbos and Yom Tov, because Mashiach nor Eliyahu Hanavi cannot arrive on Shabbos and Yom Tov because of the distance. But who makes a vow is forbidden with wine a whole week, because he could come any day. Maimonides and Eibschitz questions from Moetzes and Zeros: if during the week he made a vow, he's forbidden forever. If he made a vow on Shabbos Yom Tov, then that day he can drink. From then on, he's forbidden to drink, because there's a doubt if Mashiach will come on Shabbos Yom Tov or not. And therefore, the Nazirus did not take effect because of the doubt. The place he makes a differentiation if it will be at the time or before it. And he learns it from Sanhedrin, that there are two ways of Mashiach coming. Before Mashiach ben Yosef, and that was Mashiach ben David, that's in its time. B'achisheno, when it comes to the earlier time, there's no order. And it could be that it'll come any day, as it says in the Gemara, today if you will listen to my voice. Without Mashiach ben Yosef coming first. And therefore the Rambam says it's forbidden for a Nazir to drink wine even on Shabbos and Yom Tov. The Chassam Sofer questions, why the Rambam question, it already says in Malachi 3:23, here, behold, I'm going to send you Eliyahu Hanavi before that great awesome day. that Eliyahu will definitely come before the Mashiach. Therefore, he explains that Yom HaGodol HaNoira is not the day of Mashiach, but it means when Gog and Magog will come to wage war, as in Yechezkel 38:18. As it says, and his feet shall stand there on the Mount of Olives. Prophecy that we mentioned Gog and Magog is a great and awesome day, and we are promised in the passage that Eliyahu will be before then, and then the war of Gog and Magog will be at the beginning of the coming of Mashiach. And we don't know if the Melochim will be on the day that Mashiach ben David will be revealed. Eliyahu will come one day before that, because he's obligated to come before the war of Gog and Magog, or that the war will be a little bit after Mashiach arrives, at the beginning of his kingdom, but not the day that after he will be king a bit later. And then it could be that Eliyahu will come after Mashiach, but it will be before the days of Gog. According to the Rambam in his conclusion, the Gemara goes back, recants from what they thought Eliyahu will come before Mashiach, as the Kesef Mishnah writes and the Lechem Mishnah writes. Going on, Chaim Kanievsky Shlita cites the Medrash in Perkei Mashiach. In that moment, Eliyahu will fly from the entire world until all of Yisrael, and then Gog and Magog will come upon them. In Hilchos Mamrim, which means the laws of people who do not believe, he writes, according to tradition, there's no disagreement forever. Therefore, when he writes, even the Chachamim, they have no tradition in their hands, and since there's a disagreement when it will come, it must be the Chacham Yisrael, they had no tradition. What would be the order? Amru Chachamim. The Chacham said that may the Spirit leave them, those who try to figure out when Mashiach is coming. In the letter to Teman, Rambam writes from the Reb Sadia going that he who thinks, reckons when it's going to be, even though it's forbidden, and he mentions there were many people in his generation who had different thoughts, and they therefore nearly left Torah itself because of their mistaken calculations, and he had to strengthen their belief. Therefore, he did deal with it. Rambam himself writes that he had a tradition when the Mashiach would come. The Ramban, the Rabbeinu Bachaya, and the Daskenim Alei HaToisus also set dates for the Hayam Mashiach. The Sam Sofer cites a time. The Ramban writes, and he adds, out of his great desire and for the coming of Mashiach, he made the reckoning it should be closer to his time. If we made a mistake, he said that the redemption will be in the year 5118. And some Sofer there argues that it won't be before the year 5550. Many times have gone by, we still have not been redeemed. We continue with our belief, and we await eagerly to salvation.